32F, my boyfriend 34M, stopped being physically affectionate after 5 years together. I ignored all the warning signs until finding evidence in the most devastating way. Using a throwaway because he follows my main account. Still trying to process everything. Alex and I met 5 years ago through a recreational volleyball league in our city. We hit it off immediately. Similar senses of humor, shared love of the outdoors, and the same ambitions for our future. After dating for a year, we moved in together, adopted a golden retriever named Cooper, and settled into what I thought was a loving, stable relationship. Alex works as an architect at a mid-sized firm, while I'm a pediatric nurse. We both have demanding careers, but we always made time for each other. Weekend hikes with Cooper, cooking dinner together on weeknights, and maintaining a healthy physical relationship. Physical touch had always been important for both of us. Alex was the type to reach for my hand automatically when walking, kiss me goodbye even if just running to the store, and naturally be affectionate throughout the day. We talked about marriage as something we both wanted eventually, though neither of us felt rushed. We were building a life together, saving for a house, and planning for a future that seemed secure. I trusted him completely. The shift in our physical relationship began about 7 months ago. It started subtly. Alex stopped reaching for my hand during our walks with Cooper. The casual kisses throughout the day disappeared. He began sleeping at the far edge of our bed, claiming he was overheating at night. When I tried to initiate intimacy, he usually had an excuse: too tired, stressed about work, not feeling well. Our previously active sex life dwindled from several times a week to once a week, then once every 2 weeks, then barely once a month. At first, I attributed it to a stressful project at his firm. Alex had mentioned long hours and pressure to meet deadlines for an important client. I tried to be understanding, offering support and space, believing things would return to normal once the project concluded. But even after that project ended, the physical distance remained. When I gently asked if everything was okay, he assured me he was just going through a phase, and that it had nothing to do with his feelings for me. "I'm just not feeling very physical lately," he'd say. "It's not you, I promise." I believed him because I wanted to, because the alternative was too painful to consider. As the physical distance grew, other changes appeared. Alex started working late more frequently, sometimes not coming home until after 9 p.m. He became protective of his phone, keeping it face down and taking it with him everywhere, even to the shower. I noticed he'd started working out more regularly and bought new clothes without mentioning it. Most concerning was his newfound need for space. Alex began going on solo hikes on weekends, something he'd never expressed interest in before. When I suggested joining him, he'd say he needed time alone to clear his head from work stress. Then came the emotional withdrawal. Our conversations became superficial. He stopped sharing details about his day. When I talked about my difficult shifts at the hospital, he seemed distracted, offering generic responses rather than the engaged support I was used to. I tried addressing these changes several times, but each conversation followed the same pattern. Alex would insist nothing was wrong, blame work stress or just needing some space, and promise things would improve. I'd feel reassured temporarily, only to watch the pattern continue. Friends noticed the change too. At a dinner party, my friend Jess pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay between us, noting that Alex hadn't touched me all evening and seemed distant. I defended him, explaining about his work stress, but her observation stayed with me. The truth revealed itself on a Tuesday afternoon when I came home early from work. A young patient had canceled their appointment, giving me an unexpected few hours off. I decided to surprise Alex by picking up ingredients for his favorite dinner. When I pulled into our apartment complex, I noticed an unfamiliar car parked in the visitor spot near our unit. I didn't think much of it until I opened our apartment door and heard voices from the bedroom. Our bedroom. Time seemed to slow down as I processed what I was hearing. Alex's voice and a woman's laughter. The sound of our headboard hitting the wall in a rhythm I recognized all too well. I stood frozen in the entryway, grocery bag still in my hands, as disbelief crashed into realization. For a moment, I considered leaving quietly, unable to face what I knew I would find, but something in me needed to see the truth with my own eyes. I walked to our bedroom door and pushed it open. Alex and a woman I didn't recognize were in our bed, the bed where his excuses of fatigue and stress had rejected me for months. They scrambled to cover themselves, shock and guilt written across both their faces. "Katie," Alex started, but I cut him off. "Don't," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the hurricane inside me. "Don't say anything." I turned and walked out, got in my car, and drove to Jess's apartment, where I finally allowed myself to fall apart. I didn't return home that night, or the next. I stayed with Jess, cycling through shock, rage, heartbreak, and moments of numb detachment. Alex called and texted constantly, his messages evolving from, "Please let me explain. It's not what you think," to, "I made a terrible mistake. Please come home so we can talk." And finally, "I know I've ruined everything, but at least let me give you some closure." After 3 days, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop, neutral territory where I felt I could maintain my composure. When I arrived, Alex looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, a shadow of the man I thought I knew. Part of me felt a twisted satisfaction seeing his suffering, while another part still cared enough to notice. "How long?" I asked, skipping any preamble. After a deep breath, he admitted the affair had been going on for nearly 5 months. Her name was Vanessa, a new designer at his firm. It started with late work sessions, then drinks, then more. "Why the physical withdrawal from me?" I asked, needing to understand the pattern that had caused me so much self-doubt. If you were getting those needs met elsewhere, why completely shut me out? His answer knocked the wind from me. "I felt too guilty," he said quietly. "Being intimate with you while I was seeing her, I couldn't compartmentalize that way. It felt like a worse betrayal somehow." The irony was staggering. He'd rejected me physically out of some twisted sense of morality while betraying me in the most fundamental way. And all the excuses, the work stress, the need for space, the solo hikes. He confirmed what I already suspected. There were no solo hikes, just weekends with her. The late nights at work often weren't at work at all. The important project that had initially seemed to trigger the changes had actually concluded weeks before the physical distance began. When I asked if he loved her, his hesitation was answer enough. "I don't know what I feel anymore," he said. "It all got so complicated. I never meant to hurt you." "Yet you made hundreds of choices that led directly to this moment," I pointed out. "Each lie, each time you rejected me to save your energy for her, each time you came home late from being with her and kissed me goodnight." He had no defense, just tears and apologies that meant nothing against the magnitude of the betrayal. That evening, Jess came with me to collect essential items from our apartment while Alex stayed with a friend. I took Cooper too. Alex didn't protest, knowing the dog had always been more bonded to me. The following weeks were a blur of practical matters and emotional upheaval. I found a new apartment, divided our shared possessions, and began the process of untangling 5 years of intertwined lives. Friends chose sides or tried awkwardly to remain neutral. Some offered unwanted advice about forgiveness and second chances. Others reminded me that I deserved better. Alex oscillated between remorse and self-justification. In one breath, he'd apologize profusely. In the next, he'd reference problems in our relationship that had supposedly driven him to cheat, as though I shared responsibility for his decisions. The hardest part was understanding that the person I thought I knew never truly existed. The man who could lie to my face daily, who could watch me struggle with his rejection while knowing exactly why he was withdrawing, was not the Alex I believed I'd been building a life with. 3 weeks after discovery, I learned from a mutual friend that Alex was officially dating Vanessa. The relationship that had been conducted in shadows was now in the open, barely a month after our 5-year partnership imploded. The speed of this transition confirmed what I already suspected. He had been emotionally checked out of our relationship long before I discovered the physical betrayal. It's been 4 months since D-Day. I've settled into my new apartment with Cooper, who has been the most consistent source of comfort throughout this ordeal. I've returned to full-time work, finding solace in the structured chaos of pediatric nursing. Therapy has been essential to my healing process. My therapist has helped me understand that Alex's betrayal wasn't a reflection of my worth, but of his character flaws. She's guided me through the grief process, not just for the relationship, but for the future I thought was certain. I've reconnected with friends I had unintentionally neglected during my relationship and have even started volunteering at an animal shelter on weekends, something I'd always wanted to do but never made time for. As for Alex and Vanessa, I've heard through mutual friends that the reality of their relationship has proven less exciting than the forbidden affair. Without the thrill of secrecy, they're apparently experiencing normal relationship problems. I take no pleasure in this. I'm working to reach a place of indifference about his life. The most surprising development has been my changing perspective on physical intimacy. What I once viewed as a rejection of me, I now see as the one twisted moral line Alex couldn't cross, being physically intimate with both of us simultaneously. It doesn't excuse his betrayal, but it has helped me understand that the withdrawal wasn't about my desirability, but about his inability to fully compartmentalize his double life. Through therapy and painful reflection, I've gained insights that might help others facing similar situations. 1. Trust your body's intuition. The knot in my stomach when Alex began withdrawing physically was trying to tell me something my mind wasn't ready to accept. 2. A dramatic change in physical intimacy is rarely just a phase or just stress. While these factors can affect a relationship temporarily, a sustained pattern of rejection often indicates deeper issues. 3. Don't accept vague explanations for significant changes. I'm just not feeling physical lately, or I need space without any concrete reasons or timeline for improvement are often covers for something else. 4. Someone who truly loves you won't watch you suffer with self-doubt for months while knowing exactly why they're withdrawing. 5. Healing isn't linear. Some days I feel strong and hopeful. Other days, a memory or trigger brings me back to that moment in the doorway of our bedroom. Both are valid parts of the recovery process. For those experiencing a partner's sudden physical withdrawal, my advice is to address it directly and early. Don't accept vague excuses or promises of improvement without seeing actual effort. Your need for physical connection is valid, and a partner who cares will work to understand and address the issue rather than dismiss it repeatedly. TLDR, boyfriend of 5 years, suddenly stopped being physically affectionate. After months of excuses and rejection, I discovered him in our bed with a coworker. He admitted to a 5-month affair and said he withdrew physically from me because he felt too guilty being intimate with both of us. 4 months post-breakup, I'm slowly rebuilding my life. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this post to get so much attention. Thank you all for the supportive comments and shared experiences. To answer some common questions. 1. Did you have any suspicions about this specific woman before catching them? No, I'd never met Vanessa and didn't even know she existed. Alex rarely talked about specific coworkers. 2. Why didn't you check his phone if you were suspicious? I've always believed in privacy in relationships. Checking his phone felt like crossing a line I wasn't comfortable with, even with my growing concerns. 3. Have you been tested for STDs? Yes, immediately after discovery. All tests came back negative, thankfully. 4. Do you think they'll last? I honestly don't know, and I'm working on reaching a place where I truly don't care. Their relationship began with dishonesty, which isn't a strong foundation. 5. Any red flags earlier in the relationship you now recognize? Looking back, Alex had a pattern of avoiding difficult conversations and telling small lies to avoid discomfort. I dismiss these as harmless personality quirks rather than seeing them as character indicators. 6. Are you dating again? Not yet. My therapist suggested giving myself at least 6 months to process everything. When I do start dating, I'll be much more attentive to how someone handles conflict and discomfort rather than just focusing on our compatibility during good times. Thank you again for the support. This community has been an unexpected source of strength during a difficult time.